Welcome to the Wind Up with Will. I'm your host, Will, again here with another video talking about sports. Today we're going to be talking about the College World Series, the Mets hot streak, the NBA Finals, and the Stanley Cup Finals. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the College World Series. Now, the College World Series starts tonight between the Tennessee Volunteers and the Texas A&M Aggies. It is another College World Series between two teams from the same conference. The Women's College World Series, which took place a few weeks ago, the final was between Oklahoma and Texas, two huge rivals, and Oklahoma won. I believe it was their fourth national title in a row. They won a bunch of national titles, and we got the same thing in the Men's College World Series. Now we got two rivals, Texas A&M Aggies and the Tennessee Volunteers, in the College World Series final. Both teams did not lose a game in the College World Series. They've gone undefeated until all the way to the championship round. And that's just in the College World Series. I don't know about Texas Texas A&M playing in the regionals or the super regionals, but I know Tennessee, I went back and looked, they actually only lost one game so far in the NCAA tournament. I think only one game since postseason began with the SEC tournament. And that was to the Evansville Aces out of the Missouri Valley Conference, same conference as my Murray State Racers, who actually had a better record than Evansville in conference play. But Evansville is the only team that has beaten Tennessee so far in the postseason. So Tennessee they've had a great run. They've had a great year. Let me see if I can find their record, both teams' record, real quick. Tennessee is 58-12 on the year, and Texas A&M is 52-13. So Tennessee has a few more wins, but it looks like they played a few more games total anyway. So if I had to pick a team to win this whole thing, I'd pick Tennessee. Kind of going into this tournament, Tennessee's kind of who I was leaning towards, just because they're the number one overall team. They've been one of the highest ranked teams all year, if not number one all year. They're just a phenomenal team all the way around. They've only had one loss in postseason play so far. So I think it's going to be them, but I think it's going to be a fun College World Series. I initially want to say Tennessee 2-0 in the series, but I'll say Tennessee 2-1. It's College World Series Finals best of three, so we'll see Tennessee and Texas A&M go at it tonight, 6:30 on ESPN. And I believe A&M will make it a series. I think it will go all three games. I think it's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to that tonight. And we play first game's tonight. Game 2 is tomorrow at 1 p.m. And if Game 3 is necessary, it'll be Monday night at 6 p.m. on ESPN. So that's just kind of the College World Series real quick. Next, we're going to talk about my favorite team, the Mets. The New York Mets and Major League Baseball. Over the last couple of weeks, the Mets have turned into one of the hottest teams in baseball, and that's all thanks to Grimace. Grimace is the purple kind of big mascot for McDonald's, one of several mascots that they have, or characters that they have. He threw out a first pitch in a Mets game like a couple weeks ago, or actually a little over a week ago, and the Mets have just been on a tear since then. The Mets won 7 in a row this past week, and it ended with a loss 5-3 to the Rangers on Wednesday night. Mets bounced back in their next game yesterday against the Cubs, winning 11-1 before losing to 8-1. But the Mets have been on an extremely hot streak. Let me see if I can find. No, go back. Well, where did the tweet go? I had the recent hot streak pulled up. So, and the Mets, since when Francisco Alvarez, the Mets catcher, plays, this season the Mets are 19-7. He was injured for a huge portion of the year. So since he has come back, the Mets offense has been clicking. JD Martinez over the last 15 days is batting .302 with 4 home runs, 16 RBIs, which leads Major League Baseball, and over 1,000 OPS. He is kind of live again and starting to look like the 2018 JD Martinez. Pete Alonso has started to hit home runs again. Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor have raised their batting average. Mark Vientos has been a huge boost since coming back up from the minors. The Mets are on a tear. And at one point this season, at the end of May, let's what was the Mets record at the end of May? At the end of May, the Mets were 24-33. Since then, the Mets have gone 12-6 and are 8-2 over their last 10 games. The Mets have been really hot, and they're right in the thick of it in the National League wild card, which is insane considering how bad the Mets have been. In the month of May, the Mets had one of the worst bullpen ERAs in baseball. The team played horrible. The offense wasn't scoring runs. And it was kind of weird because in April, the Mets had one of the best bullpens in baseball. May, they had one of the worst. And now in the month of June, they have one of the best again, bullpens. So it's kind of Jekyll and Hyde. But right now, the Mets, after today's loss to the Cubs 8-1, are tied with the Cubs in the standings, both a game and a half out of the wild card. The National League wild card standings is insane. The Braves are at 42-31 in the first wild card spot. The Cardinals, just one game over 500, are 38-37. They're a half game up on the Padres, who are 40-40, tied for the third wild card spot with the Arizona Diamondbacks, the defending National League champions, who have been playing a lot better here recently. They had not been playing well, and they're 7-3 over their last 10 to get back in contention. But there's how many teams in the wild card race? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 10 teams. I'm sorry, there are 9 teams in the National League wild card standings. They're all within 3 games of one another. The Braves are 5.5 up on the second wild card Cardinals. But from the Cardinals down, so the Cardinals, Padres, Diamondbacks, Nationals, Cubs, Mets, Pirates, Reds, and Giants are all within 3 games of one another, which is crazy to think about considering all those teams except the Cardinals are at 500 or below. The Padres are at 500, the Diamondbacks are at 500, the Nationals are 37-38, Cubs are 37-40, Mets are 36-39, Pirates are 36-39, the Reds are 36-39, and the Giants are 36-41. The only teams that are not really in playoff contention currently in the National League are the Miami Marlins at 26-49. They're 11.5 out of the wild card, and the Colorado Rockies, who are 26-50. They're 12 games out of the wild card. It's been crazy in the National League. I think it's going to be a great finish. Obviously down the stretch, some teams are going to separate, and I think you're going to see some actually teams above 500 in the wild card instead of teams hovering right at 500. But if the trend continues, you might not have to win many games to get into the playoffs. Now, I think a lot's going to change around the trade deadline in Major League Baseball. Whoever is able to get a piece or two, whether that's a pitcher or a missing bat, could separate themselves in the pack here. I think the Braves are going to make the playoffs. I know they have a ton of injuries, and they've had a lot of injuries, but they're getting some players back. I think, and they're without Ronald Acuna Jr., the reigning MVP, but the Braves are still a good team. They have got a good lineup. I know they've struggled to score runs at times this year. The Mets have actually scored more runs than them. In the span of, I think, 3 games, the Mets have scored in the span of 3 games in this hot streak, the Mets scored over 30 runs. So I know that's probably propelled us past the Braves in runs scored, but the Braves are still a talented team. I think they're going to be a wild card team. The Cardinals, I think, have the talent. It's just whether they perform. If their pitching staff can stay healthy, I think they've got a chance. And all these other teams in the wild card race have a chance. The Pirates and Reds both have young talent. The Giants have good pitching. The Mets have talent in their lineup. Their starting pitching is starting to look a little more weathered. And the bullpen, when it's healthy, is good for the Mets. The Cubs have got some good young talent. The Nationals have got some good young talent. The Diamondbacks are the defending National League champions. And the Padres have some of the most exciting talent in baseball, Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado, even though Machado's playing down this season so far. But I think it's going to be an exciting finish in the National League wild card. With the Mets' hot streak, if it can continue and the Mets can maybe add a piece at the break, I think they've got a chance to make a run at the wild card. And Grimace we trust. Since Grimace threw out that first pitch, the Mets have been playing phenomenal. It's all due to him. It's because of Grimace. The McDonald's official Twitter account actually changed their profile picture to Grimace for several days. It was hilarious. It's a fun time right now to be a Mets fan. We've come from the depths of having a horrible season to we've got a chance now. Over in the American League wildcard standings, the Orioles are 8.5 up with the first wildcard spot. The Royals are a game and a half up on the third place wildcard, and the Twins hold the last wildcard spot. Boston is one game out of the wildcard, and every team after that's 4 games away or more. The Rays, who've had a really good run over the last few years, are 4 games out of the wild card, under 500. The Astros, who've had an incredible run over the last 7-8 years, are 36-40. They're 5 games out of the wild card. The Blue Jays, who a lot of people, myself included, thought would be like a playoff team. They've got a lot of great talent. They're 35-40 on the year. They're 5.5 out of the wild card. The defending World Series champion Texas Rangers are 35-40, also 5.5 games out of the wild card. It's really shocking that those teams are out of it. The Astros were in a lot worse. They were playing a lot worse early in the year. They've kind of made a run to get back into this spot. Them and the Rays have both won 3 in a row and are both 6-4 of their last 10. So they've kind of put themselves in a better spot to maybe have a run at the wild card. The current standings with the division leaders, the Yankees have, I believe, the best record. Yeah, the Yankees have the best record in baseball at 51-27. The Cleveland Guardians lead the American League Central at 47-26. And the Seattle Mariners lead the American League West with a 44-34 record. They've got a great pitching staff and one of the great young talents in baseball, in Julio Rodriguez. So it's fun. Baseball is fun in Seattle again. Over in the National League, the NL East is being led by the Philadelphia Phillies. Since making the run to the World Series a couple years ago, back in 2022, the Phillies have been phenomenal. They made a run back to the NLCS last year, and it looks like they're well on their way to perhaps winning the NL East division this year. They're 6 games up on the Braves. Currently, the Braves are without Ronald Acuna Jr., so I like the Phillies' chances, and they've got good pitching. So I'm going to say the Phillies probably are going to hold on to the division and break the Braves' streak of, I believe, 6 straight division titles. And the NL Central, you've got the Milwaukee Brewers, who are up 5.5 games on the Cardinals. They've got decent pitching, and their hitting has actually been pretty well for them so far this season. And Willie Adames has actually performed a bit. I have him in fantasy baseball. That's how I know. And over in the NL West, the Dodgers lead by 8 games over the Padres. It looks like they're going to have another division-winning season, perhaps. Now, all the division leaders are up at least 5.5 games on the second-place teams, except for in the AL East. The Yankees only have a half-game lead over the Orioles. So that division race is going to be exciting. I do think a few of the other divisions might get exciting down the stretch. I think the NL Central might get exciting. I don't see the Brewers necessarily running away with it. If the Padres and Diamondbacks can get a little more sorted and a little more hot streak, maybe add a player here or there, they can maybe make a run at the Dodgers. I think the Braves are not quite out of it with the Phillies. I know they're kind of down. I think the Astros and Rangers are going to get back into it in the AL West. The AL Central, things could happen there. The Royals and Twins have both been playing really great. And in the AL East, I think the Orioles are really going to make a run at the Yankees in that. So we got some exciting baseball down the stretch. The season's not quite halfway over. It's very close to being halfway over, but we got a lot of baseball left, and it's going to be exciting down the stretch. Now, moving over to the NBA Finals, which that ended this week. What day of the week did that end? Ended on Monday this week. This week's been a little crazy. It ended on Monday this past week. The Boston Celtics won their 18th NBA Finals, 106-88 over the Mavericks in Game 5, winning the series 4-1. Celtics are now standalone with the most titles in the NBA. The Lakers tied them a few years ago at 17. Now they've separated from the Lakers again with their 18th title. I think this was inevitable. I think this is what a lot of people said was going to happen. I know it's what I think it was my prediction before the NBA playoffs, if you go back a few videos, I said the Celtics were the best team, that they're going to win. I did not have them playing the Mavericks. I had them playing the Nuggets in the final. The Mavericks had a great run, a historic run to get there. And if they can keep if they can keep the same talent together, maybe they're one of the best teams in the West next year. Exciting for the Celtics, exciting for the Mavericks to have been on that run. Kind of a disappointing end for them after having knocked off the Clippers, the Thunder, and the Timberwolves, knocked off every team in front of them except the Nuggets in the standings because the Nuggets got knocked out by the Timberwolves. But great run to them. Props to the Mavericks for getting that far. I think when the postseason started, I don't think hardly anyone probably had them in the finals. Least of all myself. I figured they would. I had them beating the Clippers, but I did not think they'd get past the Thunder, and surely not the Timberwolves or the Nuggets. But they made it. They made it to the NBA Finals. The Celtics were the best team in the NBA this year. They had the best record, number one seed, and I believe that was that their only loss in the playoffs was Game 4 to the Mavericks when they were up 3-0. I think that might have been their only playoff loss. Now it looks like they lost to the Cavs. They lost to the Cavs once, and they lost to the Heat once. Yeah. So they only had 3 losses in the total in the playoffs. So the Celtics had a. I knew they didn't lose many. I thought they might not have lost any at all, but they had a great run. They're the best team, and I think they're poised to win another one again next year with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. That team, and with Brad Stevens at the helm leading them, Porzingis if he can be healthy again next year, I think they could repeat as champions. I'm kind of happy that they won as well. Porzingis having played for the Mets, or not the Mets, playing for the Knicks. I was a huge fan of him on the Knicks, so I'm happy to see him get a title. And I love my guy Brad Stevens, former Butler Bulldogs coach. Glad to see him get a ring. So that's what I've got on the NBA Finals. On over to the Stanley Cup Finals, which has been a great series. If you've not followed the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 7 is Monday night between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers back in Florida. And I believe they play in Sunshine. Is it Sunshine, Florida? Yeah, Sunrise, Florida. Sunrise, it's like in the Fort Lauderdale area. This series has been insane. The Florida Panthers dominated the series early on, going up 3-0 before the Oilers had a breakout game in Game 4 on home ice, winning 8-1. They then fought out what ended up being a much closer game in Game 5 in Florida, 5-3, where Matthew Tkachuk for the Florida Panthers had one of the most incredible saves I've ever seen. With an open net at the end of the game and a puck rolling towards the rink, he dived and barely got the puck right before it crossed the line, just knocking it out of the way, barely. And Connor McDavid for the Oilers, though, was there to just put it right back in the net to seal the game. So then we went to Game 6, which was last night, and the Oilers won pretty handily 5-1. They were up, I believe, 3-0 at one point in the game. They were up 3-0, but when they were up 2-0, Florida actually scored a goal that was waved off due to offsides. Now you can go look this up. It's extremely, I don't know, it's extremely close, and it's controversial that it was waved off. It was called offside, so the goal didn't score. I don't know about it. It's very close, and that perhaps shifted the momentum in the game and took the Panthers out of the game because the Oilers ended up 3-0. Barkov scored a goal pretty early in the third period, but McLeod and Nurse both scored empty netters to put the game away 5-1. We're going back to Game 7. After being up 3-0, the Panthers now face elimination in Game 7. This is it. This is winner takes all. There's only been 4 times in NHL history that a team has come from down 3-0 to win a series. There was, I believe it was the 1941 Toronto Maple Leafs and the Stanley Cup Finals against the Detroit Red Wings. The only time it's happened in the finals, the Maple Leafs won after being down 3-0. And the other 3 times have happened in recent years. I don't remember the exact years, but it was actually, I'll look that up. I'll look it up since it's something. I got my phone right here, so we'll look it up. Okay. So we have the 1942. I was close. I said 41. 1942 Stanley Cup Finals. The Toronto Maple Leafs came from down 3-0 to beat the Detroit Red Wings to win the Stanley Cup Final. It was the only time it's happened in the finals, but it's happened 3 other times in the playoffs. The 1975 Stanley Cup quarterfinals between the Islanders and Penguins. The Islanders came from down 3-0 to beat the Penguins. And the 2 more recent times have happened in the 2010s. 2010, the Eastern Conference semifinals. The Philadelphia Flyers came from down 3-0 to beat the Boston Bruins. And then in the 2014 postseason, the first round, the Los Angeles Kings came from down 3-0 to beat the San Jose Sharks. And the Kings went on to win the Stanley Cup Finals later in the playoffs. And I remember that because they beat my Rangers in the final. And I remember after losing, I was like, if the Sharks could have just won one more game. So those are the only other time those are the 4 times that it's happened. Is in 1942, 75, 2010, and 2014 are the only times in hockey that a team has come from down 3-0 in the series to win. It's happened 1 time in baseball. The 2004 Boston Red Sox, after being down 3-0 to their arch rival New York Yankees, won 4 games in a row to reach, and that was in the ALCS. They won that to reach the World Series and then won 4 straight to sweep the Cardinals to win their first World Series in 86 years. So it's kind of a special run for them. It's never happened in the NBA. It's only happened in baseball that 1 time. It's happened in hockey 4 times. I think this very well could be the 5th. I'm going to say I am picking the Edmonton Oilers to win Game 7. Now, when they scored 8-1 to prevent the sweep to win Game 4, I thought in my head, if they can just somehow force this to a Game 7, this would be crazy. It would be insane. It would be one of the greatest comebacks we've ever seen, and it's in a Stanley Cup Finals, which makes it even greater. And it would be such a momentum switch because the Panthers, the first 3 games, really ground out wins. They were like a defensive football team that they managed to score a couple touchdowns, and then they just play hard-nosed defense and shut you down the rest of the game while they run the clock by just handing it off to Derrick Henry, just running the ball. And that's what they would do. And then if the puck, but in hockey though, if the puck went in the corner, they'd just set on the puck. They'd stand on the puck. They'd just kind of fight over it. They'd prevent you from getting into scoring lanes and getting into the offensive end. They would just do everything defensively the right way. And then the Oilers managed to change that in Game 4. They just managed to open up the ice, find ways to score, and once they got their momentum and realized, hey, we can score, it's carried into the next 3 games, and now they've tied the series and we're going to Game 7. I think even though the Panthers have home ice, which is their advantage, I think the Oilers have the advantage of momentum, the ability that they've won 3 games in a row and said, hey, we're not out of this yet. I think the Panthers have got to be thinking in their heads a little bit, man, we've let this slip away. We had a 3-0 series lead and we just sat on it. So I think that's going to be a little in the Panthers' head, but I'm sorry to the Florida Panthers fans and my good friend Vinny, who's a Panthers fan. I'm picking the Oilers to win this series. I think with the way the momentum switched, I think the fact they've not won a title in 34 years, Canada as a nation has not won a Stanley Cup since 1993 when Montreal last won it. So it's just going to be a perfect ending to a magical run for a team that's not won it in a while, for a country that's not won it in a while, and it's going to be one of the greatest comebacks in the sport of hockey. And we're going to be witnessing it Monday night, 7 o'clock on ABC. Oilers, Panthers. I think the Oilers are going to win. I'll say they win 4-3. I think it's going to be a close game, and it's going to be electric. It's going to be electric. I'm excited to watch it. Wearing my blue and orange for the Oilers. I'm slightly pulling for them. I don't mind if the Panthers win. I'm a Rangers fan, so I'm maybe a little bitter that the Panthers beat us. But the way they play, they're the better team, and they've never won it before. So I wouldn't be totally upset if the Panthers won it. I'd be happy for my friend Vinny if they won it. But I'd also kind of like to see the Oilers win it, and they do have the best player in the sport in Connor McDavid, and they've not won it in a while, and Canada's not won it in a while. So it's going to be an exciting game Monday night. I think the Oilers are going to win it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup Finals? Is it Edmonton or is it Florida? Is it America or Canada? Who you got? Who's going to win the College World Series? Are the Celtics going to repeat next year? And what do you think of the Mets hot streak? What do you think of Grimace being the rallying cry of the Mets now? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.